Whenever you need to use water for several tasks at the same time, but only have one water faucet available, it can be very inconvenient. If you want to get water from another location, you usually have to install an additional pipe or constantly disconnect and reconnect the existing one, which takes time and can be quite frustrating. So today, I'm going to try something quite interesting, creating an additional water outlet from the existing water source, and I'll show you each step so you can follow along. But before we get started, I have a quick question for you. Which country are you watching this video from? Leave a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to see which countries around the world are following this video. Now, let's get started. First, I take the faucet that I want to create an additional connection on and firmly secure it in a bench vise. Keeping it firmly in place is very important because during the heating and thread forming process, the piece needs to remain stable for the best possible result. Next, I use a gas torch to heat the threaded end. I heat it gradually until the material becomes soft enough. Then, I quickly take the PPR fitting I prepared and press it onto the heated threaded section. When the fitting is pushed in deep enough, the softened material takes the shape of the fitting's threads. At this point, I spray a small amount of water onto the area to cool it down and help the newly formed shape set quickly. Then, I slowly twist and remove the fitting. And now, take a look at this. You can clearly see the newly formed threads. With just this simple technique, I've managed to create a threaded end that fits properly with the water shutoff valve. Of course, this is only a demonstration, and if you try something similar in real life, you need to be especially careful when working with the high temperature of a gas torch. However, it's often these simple little tricks that can help us discover surprisingly useful solutions. If you want to see the next step, leave a comment below, and don't forget to watch until the end of the video. Next, we're moving on to another equally interesting step. This time, I take a fitting with an internal thread and firmly secure it in the bench vise. Everything is ready, and I'm going to use the same method as in the previous step to create a properly fitting connection. I slowly heat the fitting with a gas torch, making sure to heat it evenly until the material reaches the right level of softness. Once it's hot enough, I quickly take a piece of pipe that matches the size of the fitting and press it inside. I push the pipe in deep enough to create a solid contact area, then spray a little water to cool it down and help maintain the shape I've just created. Once the material has cooled, I gently twist and pull the pipe out. As you can see, the end of the pipe has now been shaped quite clearly. Next, I take the other end of the pipe and weld it together with the fitting that I created the threads on in the previous step. I carefully work on each joint so that all the components are securely connected into one complete piece. And there we have it. One part of the recycling process is complete. From a few components that might otherwise seem to have little value, we've managed to create a completely new part. Now, let's wait and see how interesting the final result will be once we install it into the water system. Now that we've finished fabricating all the parts, it's time to put everything we've made into the actual water system. This is the most important step because, after all the work we've done, I'm really curious to see whether this newly added water faucet will actually work as expected. First, I shut off the main water supply to make sure the installation is safe and prevent water from spraying everywhere. Then, I begin removing the existing faucet from the pipe. Once the faucet is removed, I install a T-fitting in its place to create an additional branch for the water supply. Next, I install each component one by one in the correct position. I carefully check all the threaded connections to make sure they fit together properly. Then, I wrap some thread sealing tape around the threaded end of the pipe we fabricated earlier. Although this is a small step, it's very important because it helps create a tighter seal and reduces the risk of leaks when the water is turned back on. Once the sealing tape is in place, I insert the newly fabricated pipe into position and slowly tighten it. After that, I reinstall the original water faucet that I removed earlier back into its original position. Everything is starting to come together, and we're now just one step away from having a completely new water outlet. Next, I take the additional faucet and screw it directly onto the remaining threaded connection. I tighten it firmly by hand, and then carefully check all the connections one more time. And there we have it. The installation of the additional water faucet is complete. But wait, the most exciting part is still ahead. Now it's time to find out whether all the work we've done actually delivers the result we were hoping for. Before turning the water back on, I have a quick question for you. Have you subscribed to my channel yet? If you haven't, please hit the subscribe button to support me. Every subscription gives me even more motivation to continue making useful tips, interesting experiments, and creative projects like this one. And now, the moment of truth has arrived. I slowly turn the main water supply back on and begin testing each faucet one at a time. First, I open the original faucet and watch the water flow. The water comes out smoothly and with good pressure. Next, I open the newly installed faucet. And just look at that. Both faucets are flowing at the same time, and the water is coming out smoothly and quickly. This is exactly what I wanted to test from the beginning. Instead of having only one faucet and having to wait whenever we need to use water in different places, we now have an additional water outlet connected to the same source. This can be especially convenient when several water-related tasks need to be done at the same time. However, if you try a similar project in real life, make sure to carefully check every connection for leaks and ensure that the entire system can safely handle the water pressure before using it for an extended period. And that's it. After all the fabrication, installation, and testing, our experiment is finally complete. One water source, two working faucets, simple, convenient, and surprisingly effective.